Superintendent. I'd like to first start off and thank Mike Weber and Foxborough Cable Access for hosting us this evening. We just really have not, we would not be able to get through this year if it weren't for all of the support of Foxborough Cable Access and particularly Mike Weber for hosting so many evenings for us. So thank you, Mike, and for being there with us tonight. So tonight, we obviously have our administrative team from the Ahern Middle School, Miss Karen Frazier, the principal, and our assistant principals, Dr. Frazier and Dr. DeMarco. We also have Dr. Mello, our assistant superintendent. She'll actually be facilitating the chat function this evening, which hopefully we'll get to lots of your questions before with our agenda. So you may want to hold off on questions before submitting those in the chat. Our, or I should say your Ahern nurse, Miss Jen Rosenberg. She is with us this evening. She's also our district nurse leader. And then Mr. Richard Pearson, who's the chair of the Foxborough School Committee, is with us this evening. So we're really excited to be here. We do know that there are some parents that may not be able to get in with the link right now. So we would suggest if you're hearing from any of them, maybe text them and try a different browser. And we're also going to be recording this evening, so it will be able to be viewed at a later date. But again, we're really excited to be here this evening to be able to discuss a full return to in-person learning. A lot has happened since the September 8th town meeting hall that we had with you. We've been through a lot, we've learned a lot this year, but our goal has remained the same. And that goal has been to return students to full in-person learning. And we know how important it is to be in the brick and mortar school, and you really just can't replace that. So with everyone being together, that really has been our goal. So we're excited to be here this evening talking about that because, you know, simply stated, we know that the active engagement and the motivation from being together in person, that's crucially important from the academic standpoint and then also from the social standpoint. Adapting to the challenges of COVID-19, it's not been easy on anyone, and we continue to be so appreciative of the strong community support from our faculty, our staff, our parents, all of you, and our community. The saying that it takes a village could not be more true this particular school year. So let me first take a moment and really to say thank you for all of your support through new schedules, through our technology ups and downs, and then the extra support that you've provided to your own children through academics and the social pieces. We know that it's been really challenging. We understand the enormity of these challenges. We really do. And we also know that getting our students, your children, back in school full time for academics and the social connections, that's so important in their young lives. Our goal this evening is to provide you with an overview of what will not change. And then what will change as students transition back to full-time and to a more normal structured learning environment. As you're aware, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education mandated that student learning time, if you're in a hybrid model, would not count towards student learning time anymore, and that a full return for K-5 students needs to take place by April 5th, and for middle school students by April 28th. We continue to receive guidance from the Department of Ed throughout the school year. We know that we will continue to receive guidance in different topic areas that has to do with facilities or, recess or different things like that. So, as an example, that most recent guidance that stated that hybrid learning would not count towards the state's time on learning regulations, we wanted to have students come back in person before that. So even though, like, for instance, for middle school, they said the 28th, our date is Monday, the 26th. We're in a very different place than we were at the beginning of the school year, obviously. And again, we've learned a lot. We've learned that our mitigation strategies have worked for schools, and schools are safe places. The science and evidence has shown that. We also know that I'll just mention that for K-5 students, there were many districts that have fifth graders in their middle schools, and they were able to write a waiver to the Department of Education and wait and have their fifth graders return when the middle schoolers, the rest of the students in their school returned. We chose not to write that waiver because we felt that although it's really challenging logistically, particularly if you have students in more than one grade at the middle school. If you, for instance, have a fifth grader and a seventh grader, So it is more challenging logistically for you, changing our bus routes for a period of 2 weeks where we have fifth graders coming in and not 6th through 8th. Those are logistical challenges, but we also thought it was really important to provide the opportunity for our fifth graders to become acclimated with their new learning community sooner at this particular grade level, because they weren't afforded to be able to do many of the typical transitional activities at the beginning of the year, just due to the uniqueness of this year. So we're excited to have fifth graders come back on Monday on the 5th, and then excited to have 6th through 8th graders on Monday, the 26th, after April vacation. So again, stated that we're in a different place now than we were in September. For the last 6 weeks, the community of Foxborough, we've been a lower positivity rate, less than 3% in the yellow. We've continued to not see transmission in schools when we've had positive cases. When we think about close contacts, we've not had transmissions. We've got the evidence for that to support that schools really are safe places. This evening's presentation is focusing on in-person learning. So if your student is learning remotely, meaning they're in cohort D, they can continue to learn remotely. We do know, though, from our recent survey that there are many students who wish to return to full in-person learning, and they will be returning, actually. So we're really happy to welcome them back into the school building as well. So before I turn this over to Ms. Frazier, I just really want to reiterate, as all year, that safety continues to be our first and top priority. Prioritizing our students' social and emotional needs, and knowing that our students have experienced COVID-19 differently is really important. So as we transition both cohorts and bringing them back together as a classroom community, we also know that that can't just be the turn of a switch. We need to transition students in the two cohorts coming back into that classroom community in a way that supports them. And teachers have already begun this process, and you'll hear possibly some examples of that tonight. So again, we have an agenda with many topics that we'll be covering, so you might want to hold off on your questions. If we don't answer them, you can certainly put those in the chat. And if we don't get to those this evening, we will be downloading the chat afterwards, so we'll be able to see what those questions were. And as always, reach out to your child's teacher or with one of the administrators at the middle school. So at this point, I'll turn it over to your principal, Ms. Frazier. I think you're muted, Karen. You would think by this time of the year that we would have the mute part down, right?
You would think. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. As Dr. Berdos said so well, we are very excited to welcome the students back to full in-person learning. We really appreciate the partnership we've had with you throughout the year, your patience and flexibility with us as we've maneuvered through the different challenges that we faced here at school, and we know you've certainly faced at home as well. We're looking forward to hopefully a really nice, strong finish to the school year with our students, and we've been doing a lot of work here to get everybody ready for that and to prepare. As Dr. Berdos said, our primary focus is the health and safety of the students, and certainly also that social emotional focus as well. So I will share my screen. Not sure why. There we go. Just make that a little bit bigger. There we go. So this is our agenda for the evening. You can see that we're going to talk you through sort of a typical day here at the middle school and what that will look like with the current health and safety protocols. You'll notice that we're continuing many of the health and safety protocols that we've been doing throughout the year, and with some of the biggest differences really being in that 3 to 6 foot distancing in the guidelines. And we're finding as we're starting to add furniture back into the classrooms that we're very fortunate here in the Ahern. Our building is very big, and our classrooms have some pretty big spaces as well. And we're finding that in most spaces, we're still able to maintain about 4.5 to 5 feet of distance between the students and the classrooms with very few exceptions, and certainly not less than 3 feet in any given space. Lunch has certainly been one of our biggest challenges, and certainly students will be at 6 feet distance in the lunchroom. We'll talk about the details a little bit later in the presentation, but 6 feet in the cafeteria and in the lunch spaces with their masks off as well. So you can, again, see the topics here, but we will talk you through a typical day and then hopefully give you some helpful tips at the end and give you a little bit of a window into what our focus will be with the students as they return. So again, the health and safety protocols really are remaining pretty much the same, with that focus on the hand washing, hand sanitizing, the mask wearing, and the social distancing. So we'll talk again, just some reminders about the specifics of the mask and what's needed there. With again, the biggest difference being that now we're maintaining 3 feet of distance as opposed to 6, with the exception of lunch. And again, that hand washing will be so important. And we are fortunate here that we do have sinks in most of our classrooms, so students are able to really wash their hands, but in any time that that's not possible, we are encouraging that hand sanitizing. So again, that hand washing, hand sanitizing, students wiping down their desks with the sanitizing wipes each time that they're leaving the classroom. Those are being replenished each night and more often if it's needed in a particular space. And we're continuing with that spray sanitizing between lunches and each evening after the students leave for the day. So I will pass it on to Dr. Frazier, and he'll talk about some more of the specifics around those.
So we all are so excited to have the kids back. And as Ms. Frazier already said, we're going to be doing a lot of the same protocols as we've already been doing this year. So the kids should be feeling very comfortable and very confident going into it. In particular, the big change would be that the social distancing is now at 3 to 6 feet unless they have their masks off. And that hand washing and hand sanitizing, of course, will be happening before and after eating and before sharing materials. They'll also do this before they go to recess and when they come back. We're still going to have students cleaning their desks and chairs before each period and at the end of each period as well. Dr. DeMarco?
I just want to echo what everyone else has said. We are very excited to have the students back to full in-person learning. And we know that there's going to be some challenges that come along, and instead of 2 days a week, they're going to be in the building all 5 days and have their masks on. And the students have done a great job wearing their masks in the building, very responsible with that up to this point. But one of the things that goes along with that is mask breaks. So students can have a mask break and can ask for one at any time. Teachers have done a great job getting the students outside, whether it's recess or the 20 minutes, and giving them opportunities where they can take advantage of mask breaks outside as well. Masks will not be removed for longer than 10 minutes at a time. And when they're removed, just like lunch, the students will be 6 feet apart. And as I mentioned, they can go outside and take advantage of the nice weather. We're very fortunate. It's a good time of the year. So pass it on to Karen now.
Again, we're very hopeful that we'll have good weather through the end of the school year, and as Dr. DeMarco said, really getting the students out there, and not only for recess or lunch or the 20 minutes, but also any instructional opportunities that may work well in an outdoor space, really helping them to get that fresh air and again the mask breaks as they may need them. So again, I'm repeating a little bit here, but really hoping to hit on some of these most salient points as far as the precautions that are being taken to keep the students safe and healthy, as well as the staff. At the end of each day, the custodians will be doing a thorough disinfection of our classrooms with those electrostatic misters. The hand sanitizers and wipes available in every classroom, and again, replenished each night and more often if needed. The custodians are cleaning multiple times throughout their shifts. They've done an amazing job. They're working so hard to make sure that all of that furniture ends up back in the classrooms and at the appropriate distancing, and that every touch point is being cleaned frequently throughout the day. So we're very grateful to them. And again, the students will be washing and sanitizing their hands after sharing materials. So there continues to be group work in the classroom. Students are working together, but the time that they're spending together is limited to stay within the 15 minutes, and that hand washing and sanitizing continues to be so important.
So a big part of every day is getting to school. So we're going to have a drop off like we've been doing all year, just with more students. We're going to ask that, obviously, if you're interested, and encourage you to use those buses. Students will be coming in through designated areas based on their cohort of their grade level, and staff will be at designated spots where they'll shepherd them through the halls and make sure that kids continue to move towards their class and go inside and begin their day. Students will continue not to be using their lockers. They'll instead go right to homeroom with their backpacks. And Dr. DeMarco will explain a little more about that.
So we are very fortunate to continue to have breakfast at no cost at the Ahern. It's a grab and go breakfast that they'll get. They eat in their homerooms. Similar to what we talked about in other situations, washing hands before and after eating is always going to be important. The students are doing a great job in the cafeteria with breakfast, so we expect they're going to continue to do the same. And Ms. Frazier is going to elaborate a little bit more on eating in the classrooms.
So we are going to be using multiple spaces for lunches, and lunch will not be eaten in the classroom. We want to make sure the students do have ample time for that lunch break. But for breakfast in the morning, that staggered entry into the building will be a big help for this. But also this applies to any snacks that may be eaten throughout the day, and it may look different from classroom to classroom. But ultimately, we're looking at, if students have their masks off, they do have to be 6 feet apart in order to do that. So during breakfast or snack or any kind of informal eating time, that will likely look like a sort of a rotation. So every student has the opportunity to eat, but maybe not all at the same time. That 6 feet really is so important because the masks will be off. So it may look like teachers are extending the classroom space. It could be to the hallway or to one of our group spaces, or maybe they're taking some of those breaks outside.
When the students are in the hallway, we have a system already in place. They've been doing a great job with 2 lanes for passing. The hallways are divided by yellow tape, and there's 6-foot stickers there to aid in the social distancing. The students will stay single file while they're in the hallway and making sure that they have their masks on. And as they have been doing, we're going to be encouraging them to continue to walk with a purpose where they're trying to go, to limit the amount of congregating in the hallways. All teachers, of course, are supervising in between periods. And again, students won't be using their lockers as of now, and they'll be carrying their items throughout the hallway. Dr. DeMarco?
Before we go to the next slide, just one thought that we also, it came up with the staff as we were talking about this as well, and certainly thinking about the higher number of students who will be in the building and moving through the hallways. There are 2 things that will be really helpful to us. One being, our passing time is only 2 minutes, and students are moving between houses. So they're not necessarily moving throughout the entire building or moving long distances. And that time in the hallway is very short. So even if there is a little bit of grouping together as students are walking, the time is very short there. And that's it, I think. Go ahead, Dr. DeMarco.
In similar fashion to the hallways, we have a process with the restrooms that's gone really well. Only one student's going to be allowed out of the classroom at a time. We have a sign-out system that is used at all the grade levels. And students have to wait to use the restroom. There's 6 feet distancing on the floor, markings right outside the restroom entrance. So if there are other students in there, make sure, obviously the restrooms aren't overcrowded. Students, again, like I keep saying, have done a great job, and we anticipate they're going to continue to do so as they come back.
So I have the privilege of talking about lunch. So we have a unique seating situation this year in the cafeteria, and most of our students will be able to fit into the cafeteria each day. All students will have the chance to get into the cafeteria for lunches. However, a portion of each group of each grade will be eating in other spaces. We are going to be encouraging eating outside in a picnic style fashion. So we're welcoming students to bring a towel or even a small blanket to sit upon while they socially distance and eat in outside spaces. We'll also be utilizing our gym and our one of our larger spaces inside as well. They'll still be cleaning in between each lunch using one of those electrostatic cleaning devices. And students will be, of course, 6 feet apart while they're eating.
Dr. Frazier and I get to talk about the best parts of the day, lunch and now recess. Students have done an awesome job at recess, really keeping their space there. For 5th and 6th grade, it's by house. So there's 2 classes that will be out there with the teachers. And, we encourage socially distanced activities, limiting shared materials, although we do allow them to use some shared materials. And as long as they sanitize before they go out, and when they come back in, they can take advantage of an opportunity for a mask break when they're outside. And the 7th and 8th grade teachers have done a really nice job getting the students outside during the 20 minutes and taking advantage of the tremendous amount of space we have at the Ahern outside on our campus. So, recess has gone very, very well, and we envision it's going to continue to go well, and the students have been great as always.
So we added music and wellness here just because there are some really specific guidelines to these 2 areas that have posed some challenges throughout the year, with some changes that have come along as well in a positive way. For example, chorus, as many of you know, the students weren't able to sing in the building until very recently. And we're very excited that now they're able to sing inside, because we found that when they were singing outside early in the year, they couldn't hear each other very well. And that led to students being a little bit less confident to sing themselves when they couldn't hear their peers. So our chorus teacher, Miss Oberoi, the students, we are very excited that the students have this opportunity again, and we are prioritizing this within our spaces here in the building. So the students will be taking chorus in the gym and the cafeteria. They do have to space at 10 feet in order to sing, and that is limited to 30 minutes. So there may be an alternate activity before or after they sing to make up for that 10-minute difference in the class period. Band, very similar to chorus, they have to distance at 10 feet. We will have a tent. The tent is returning, I believe, on April 5th, which will be just about in time. We're able to fit about half the band under the tent outside, so we'll be sharing some space between the tent and the auditorium inside the building. And again, students will rotate a little bit in an inclement weather. We may see them rotating through some stations or doing some different alternative activities. The orchestra is able to play indoors at 3 to 6 feet. And wellness, they've really found some creative ways to work through both physical education and health. For the remainder of the year, they'll be outdoors as much as they possibly can be. We're really fortunate. We have a lot of really beautiful space out there where we can have a lot of students outside and spread out, really using that space. They will be positioned at 10 feet when they're really working out with very limited times. So the teachers have gotten really good, I think, at timing the amount of time students are together and having, this group is doing a different activity while this group's working out, and then they're switching. So everybody's getting those same opportunities. But again, they've learned some new things this year, like bocce and croquet and yoga. And if they haven't gotten to them, they'll continue to get to them through the end of the year. And health has certainly looked different this year, with a major focus, obviously, on the pandemic and the health and safety around that. We are looking toward our human growth and development unit for the spring, as well as some of the mental health and social emotional pieces of the curriculum for the end of the year to offer some additional support to our students with those topics.
So when considering dismissal, it will be different, but the same. So we'll obviously be encouraging everybody to use the buses. And students will go directly from period 7 to their bus or parent pickup using the designated exits, the same ones that they would have come in the morning. We are encouraging for parent pickup for parents to move all the way up to where our lovely team of crossing guards and teachers are directing them to fit as many cars as possible and to keep the line moving. The students will be at 3 feet intervals waiting for their ride. And, we're encouraging as many students, again, to take the bus as possible.
Well, very excited to talk about after school time. We haven't had an opportunity for students to take advantage of this time, but they will now, beginning after April vacation. They can stay for extra help or makeup work. And we're also going to have the homework club in the library. We hope that we'll eventually be able to transition to extracurricular activities at the school. For now, those are going to continue to be virtual. One difference from past years in terms of the late bus is that students must sign up the day before. So if you know that your student is planning to stay after, then please make sure either to have them sign up or you to sign up for them for the late bus. That sign up is done through our website online, and there are 3 different late buses depending on where your student is located. And that's at 3:25. If parents are picking up a student, they should pick them up by the flagpole and please not in the bus circle. The buses have to get in and out in a safe manner. So we ask that parents drive down to the flagpole area and pick up students in that space. But we are excited to have students and provide them with an opportunity to stay after school. And I'm sure you are as well as parents.
Worth mentioning is on Mondays and Wednesdays, any of our Boston students will also have a late bus available to them for them to be able to stay after for extra help and makeup work as well. And that will work in the same fashion as the resident late buses. So we thought it would be important to mention when we're thinking about the 5th grade transition back to full in-person learning on April 5th, and thinking about what the beginning of the school year typically looks like for our 5th grade students and the activities that they do as part of that transition. And a big part of that is our web program, where everybody belongs, where we have our 8th grade web leaders who lead the orientation program, as well as continued small group activities with the 5th grade students throughout the school year. So our amazing web leaders, our 8th graders this year, and our faculty advisors for the web program have worked really hard this year. They got creative and managed to give a modified orientation for our 5th grade students with the health and safety guidelines in place. And they have met with their small groups on about a monthly basis, and will continue to do so. But we really wanted to think about, what would this look like for 5th graders returning to their learning? And the 8th grade leaders really jumped on board with this and have been brainstorming together in their leadership elective that they have in the afternoons. So they're going to do what they would do and what they did do at the start of the school year. They're going to be in the hallways in the morning as the 5th grade students are entering the building. They're greeting them and making sure they know exactly where they're going and giving them some gentle peer reminders about the social distancing and the masks. And they'll continue with those fun small group community building activities through the end of the year as well. And we hope the 5th graders are as excited about it as the 8th graders are. They've been working really hard on it.
Like has already been said, this is a big time and a big transition for these students, especially our 5th graders, but really all the kids. So we understand that it's going to feel like the first day of school all over again for our teachers, for our kids, and for ourselves. So we are encouraging the opportunity for relationship building on those first few days, opportunity to bring the classes together, to share experiences, to have conversations, and to rebuild that culture and that community that the kids had before all of this began and continue to have been building throughout it. So we're so excited to see the kids come in, and we're really, probably going to slow the concentration on academics for a day or two and really focus on those kids and those relationships.
So we've been having a lot of discussion about, what does this look like at home and at school, and what are some tips and strategies we might be able to share with you so that we're working together to help the students with this big transition back to full in-person learning. So just a few things. We want to make sure the students are charging their laptops each night and bringing them to school with them every day. They're not on them all day long, but they are using them as part of their learning in the classrooms. They should pack their backpack the night before, and a really good tip is to charge the laptop right on top of the backpack so that both of those things are grabbed together in the morning. Establishing a homework routine, and along those lines, we did want to share with you that we've been talking with the staff. The homework during the week will be minimal, if at all. There will not be any homework on the weekends. Homework may look more like if students didn't finish their work in class during the day, they may have to finish up a little bit, or there may be some previewing for the next day so they can be successful in the next day's lesson, but it will be minimal. And if you run into any challenges with that, we do encourage you to reach out to your student's teacher or the guidance counselor or any of us so that we can help with that, because it may look different from student to student. A consistent bedtime. This may seem like it's geared to young students, but one of the things we've heard the most, I think, from our students as we're asking them how they're feeling about the transition is that they found it difficult to be in a routine with their sleep over the course of this year, with each day looking a little bit different for them. So finding that routine will be really important. And we recommend that they keep the cell phones and any other devices in a common area of the house, charging somewhere outside of their room so they're not tempted to be distracted and kept up late with those during the night. We encourage you to talk with your child about the transition, ask them how they're feeling about it. Some kids are really excited and others are nervous and they're anxious, and for all different reasons. Whether it's, I don't know how, I'm in cohort A and I don't know how these cohort B students are going to feel about me or how I'm going to feel about them in the classroom. Others may be a little bit anxious about, well, what does this look like when there are more students in my classes or in the hallways? And talking about it will help to ease some of that anxiety for them a little bit. Balancing school, helping the students balancing school and social and family priorities will be important, and they'll need help and guidance with that. And encouraging the students to really advocate for themselves by reaching out to the adults here at school and at home. And we're available to you also, and encourage you to reach out with any questions or concerns that you may have, but especially if your student may need some additional support from us here. And also along those lines, we just wanted to mention, and I'll be sending out tomorrow as well, but we do have a webinar coming up for parents for middle and high schoolers in preparation for this return to full in-person learning and supporting students in terms of their social emotional learning and mental health with this. And Larry Epstein will be the presenter. If you saw him present to the elementary schools, you may be familiar with him already, although the presentation will be a little bit different. And we have him presenting to our staff as well at our April staff meeting around trauma-sensitive approaches as we bring our students back in full. So with that, we will open it up to any questions you might have.
So there are several questions in the chat. Before we go to the questions, I just want to note that we know we had a couple of technical difficulties when we began. We started with about 59 people participating and we're up to about 93. So if you missed any part of this, it is being recorded and it will be uploaded pretty quickly to Foxborough Cable Access. So you will be able to play it back for any portions that you may have missed. So the first question is, will there be any ability to leave some materials at school? As we know, the backpacks get very heavy and then they have the instruments. So you want to take that, Ms. Frazier?
Sure, I'll do my best to answer. So for our 5th and 6th grade students, this may be a little bit easier because their desks actually have little cubbies in them. So while they may not be a locker, they do have space within their classrooms to leave their own items, which has maybe been difficult to this point in the year because they've shared their desks with the other cohort. So they've had minimal space in those cubby holes, but they'll have their full desk. They'll be able to store some items there. 7th and 8th grade will get a little bit tricky, but we can certainly work with the teachers to help the students with some strategies around what do they really need with them day to day, and helping them get set up with that for the following school day, and hopefully getting into some more of those routines around what works best for them, so they're not carrying everything with them all the time.
Great, thank you. This one might be one for Dr. DeMarco or Dr. Frazier, wondering about the dismissal in 1-minute increments. Is that by grade? Because we are encouraging students to take the bus, but if there's a parent picking up and it's a full pickup and they have 1 to 2 kids and they're in different grades, just how will that work?
I'll take that. The dismissal will be by grade. It continues to be 1 minute is an extraordinary. It's a short period of time. So the students are typically out of the building within those 4 minutes. And so if you do have multiple students, 1 in 8th grade, 1 in 5th, we'd encourage you, to get into line. But the reality is it's a pretty quick dismissal. It's not really that large of a gap.
Thank you. This one might be for Nurse Rosenberg. For students who are deemed a close contact and have to quarantine. Oh, actually, this might not be from Nurse Rosenberg. This one might be more for Dr. Bertos. What's the plan for their learning while they're, or anybody, Ms. Frazier, Dr. Frazier, or Dr. DeMarco, if they're out of school and they're a close contact, what is the plan for learning while they're out of school?
First of all, it might be helpful to just address the potential for more close contacts than what we've had in the past. So I'll turn that over to Ms. Rosenberg and have her answer that first.
Sure. So now going to the 3 to 6 foot distancing, we do anticipate when there is a positive case, there will be more close contacts just by the nature of the distance. And we are prepared to do that. So there is a chance that your child may be deemed a close contact. With that being said, from the start with the contact tracing we have been doing, knowing that we have deemed a close contact in the school setting or on the bus has actually become positive. So that's a good sign. That shows that the transmission is not happening in the schools, even when we have to deem someone a close contact. I think one of the important mitigation strategies that wasn't mentioned this evening that is a testament to all the parents at home is keeping your kids home when they're sick. You have been doing an amazing job at that, and that is what's keeping our kids in school to this point. So I urge you to still continue to do that. Do the morning daily self-assessment symptom checklist with your child just to make sure. And feel free to reach out to myself or Katie Timmons at Ahern, and we're always there. We're only a phone call away. We're an email away. If you have any questions, we've been fielding a lot of phone calls all year long, and we want to continue to do that because we think that that's really an important part of the communication. So please feel free, reach out if you have any questions.
And I would just add that if we do have students that are out by being deemed a close contact or they themselves are not feeling well, just as we've not been doing all school year, we're not live streaming. And anytime that students have been out, just in the past, we've had students when they've had the flu be out for school for a week at a time. And teachers have worked with students to get them caught up and to make sure that they have what they need. So it wouldn't be any different than some of those kinds of situations that we've had in the past.
We have a question about band. With only half the band fitting under the tent, will there be any opportunities later in the year for the entire band to practice together?
I hope so. I know that our music department has been working really hard to be creative around how to bring some performances together. I know Mr. Glynn and Ms. Tadoldi had actually sort of spliced together a full performance for a few of the different music ensembles. They do have their eyes on some potential concerts as we go forward. One of the bigger challenges with this really is, with 78 students in the band and having the distance at 10 feet, that it's difficult to find a space where you can put all of those students together at 10 feet to play their instruments. So we're hopeful, we remain hopeful, and we keep our eyes on the changing guidance. And I'm confident that our music department will continue to get creative on how that could look between now and the end of the year if they're not able to come fully together again.
Great. Question about bus seating and spacing on the bus now that both cohorts are back, and how close contacts will be determined now that they are 3 feet apart, which I think we touched upon, but not maybe specifically the bus.
We've been contact tracing from the start on the bus because of the way the seating is. It's impossible to keep that 6-foot distance on a bus, and the bus kind of was under a different guidance from the start. So we have been doing the contact tracing, so it's not going to look any different. It just may be more individuals that are deemed close contact. But we're also going to take into consideration the time on the bus, as sometimes kids get on late, so they may not be on the bus for 15 minutes. So we're going to definitely be more methodical with our contact tracing, as we don't want to unnecessarily put anyone out as a close contact that doesn't need to be based on the definition of the term. So we're definitely we don't take it lightly when we have to deem someone a close contact, because it disrupts families. We want our kids back in the building, but at the same time, we also are under the guidance from the Department of Public Health to follow what the definition is. So, it's our most unfavorite phone call to make this year. And, we thank all the parents for their support. You guys have been amazing when we had to make those phone calls. You've been very understanding, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Let's see here. What is the quarantine period now for students who are close contacts?
So the quarantine period has been shortened to a week, returning on day 8, as long as the student tests negative after day 5. And continues to have no symptoms. So it is a shortened quarantine period, but with that being said, you still have to monitor your symptoms for the full 14 days. The data has shown that over 95% of people will be test positive within that first week. So that's why they were able to shorten that quarantine period. So we are following that DPH guideline.
There's a question, I think Dr. Berdos, you took this last time with the elementary chat about live streaming and students who are home. And there's actually a question here about AP, but we don't have AP at the middle school yet. I don't think we have that, but at the high school, you want to just touch on that?
So it's just what I said just a minute ago, that we're not live streaming in classrooms, just as we've not been live streaming all school year.
And as the Department of Ed had said, hybrid learning doesn't count for our time on learning now. So
right. So hybrid learning has to go away based on the DESE regulations, because it doesn't count. And that would be with any type of remote learning. So that's why full in person is the focus.
All right, well, I think we're out of questions in the chat. So I don't know if anybody has any closing comments.
I'll just mention, I know that there were a couple of questions and they were answered in the chat, but just to reiterate, today was the deadline. We were trying to finalize the bus routes for the return on Monday for our K-5 students. If after this evening you have not contacted transportation and you do want your child, if they are eligible to ride the bus, please call transportation by tomorrow. The list for the bus routes, we're not sending out individual letters. They will be uploaded or on each of the websites, so you'll be able to see those. And I know particularly for 5th grade parents that their children are riding the bus, look for those by the end of day tomorrow. Those will be on the websites. And the other piece again is just to reiterate that the safety is the priority, and it's because, as Ms. Rosenberg said, parents keeping their children home when they're not feeling well, that really has made a significant difference, just as well as all of those other mitigation strategies that we continually, hear over and over. The mask, they make the difference. And that's why we've been able to not go out to where we've had, like so many other school districts, to go out fully remote. We've been able to keep our students in. We've had really great success when we think about all of the work together as a community, the staff, the faculty, the custodians, the nurses, all of the phone calls. And, as Ms. Rosenberg said, those are not fun calls to make. I know I've been on the receiving end with my own children as a close contact, and it's hard. But at the same time, it's what's important in keeping our children safe, because the goal has always been to have them back. full in person. And we just think it's so important that we're going to be able to finish this school year with all students back in person. So thank you for everything that you've done to be able to keep schools a safe place, supporting your children through the academics and the social piece. We know that many of you, the teaching part is not what you signed up for. And it's been really challenging this year. So we know that it's going to be really a great opportunity for students. We've heard it from them. They're so excited to be back. They really are. The sleep patterns as far as getting up 5 days a week, as Ms. Frazier said, we've definitely heard that from the kids too. So before we end, I just want to thank Mr. Pearson for being on with us and the support of the school committee. They've continued to be a great support all year. So I don't know, Mr. Pearson, if you wanted to just take a moment and say anything from the school committee.
Well, on behalf of the entire school committee, I do want to thank all of the administration, certainly here at the middle school, for all the work they've done thus far. And I do want to thank all the parents for their understanding of all the work we have done since August, working on this from the beginning to have our students have some opportunity. And now as we all transition into the full, as we said, brick and mortar opportunity as well. So thank you for your patience, your understanding, and and I echo everyone's sentiments of continuing to be vigilant in everything that we do to support this opportunity for our students. So thank you all.
And again, I'll just lastly say that FCA will have this, it's been recorded and it's going to be up on the FCA website just as quickly, even possibly by this evening. So anyone that was not able to log on and watch because they had challenges with the link for some reason or the timing didn't work. So it will be on the FCA website, and then we'll get it on the school website as well. So thank you for joining us, and everyone have a great evening.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.